Hey YouTube, it's me again. I think last time I left off, I was talking about addiction, and I had left off with me just getting arrested. I believe I messed up the end of the last video. The last 2 minutes was on a separate video. I apologize for that. But anyway, so yeah, that was the general gist of, the addiction part of the journey. Now granted, I could break it down at a later date and go into it in much more detail and talk about some of the really dark things that addiction made me do and, things that it cost me and everything. But instead, I'm going to fast forward now to the arrest. I got arrested. I was offered a deal to, snitch on some other people and basically become a confidential informant, and they would let me off with probation pretty much. And I really considered it at first. I was like, I'm not a snitch, but at that point I was so sick, so it really didn't, that's all you think about. So I was like, let me think about it. And they're like, okay, well, you have a week to give us an answer. Once I went home and, got unsick, I was like, yeah, no, I ain't doing that. So I got arrested again. Well, lucky me, when I got arrested again, I had a lot of drugs on me because I was trying to get clean. So I went to the city and bought a huge bulk supply to try to just stay home and wean myself off. Well, didn't happen. I got arrested. I got nailed with intent to deliver, all that stuff. Plus, there was a bunch missing out of the supply. They're like, where are the other 20 bags? I was like, I just did them. Oh, no, you didn't. This stuff is too strong. You'd be dead. I said, go do a blood test. I did them. Did a blood test, and sure enough, found out I was telling the truth. And that's the thing a lot of people don't understand. As a dealer, you have an unlimited supply. You can get a really high tolerance. And most people really bad in their addiction, you're not even getting high anymore. I was not getting anything out of it. I was just staying unsick. I was doing 20 bags of heroin at a time, multiple times a day, and I wasn't getting anything out of it. I was just staying unsick. I was afraid to do any more than that because I should have been dead as it is, let alone doing more. But I was glad after I got arrested and went to jail. I was like, this is the best thing for me because I want to get clean. And I knew in my heart that was the only way I was doing it. Now, granted, I didn't think I was going to sit in jail for a year because I had no priors. But looking back, it's probably best that I did sit in for a year. I needed it. I needed time to get clean and really think and straighten myself out. And that's one of my problems with the system is you see so many people that are just in and out of jail, and so many people that the cops arrest and just let them go because they're just a little fish. They want to catch the shark. Well, guess what? You catch the shark, a new one's just going to take their place. If you take away all their business, all the little guys, guess what? Then that shark's going to move to a new area because there's no fish left for them to feed off of. And that would be far, far more effective. Granted, I think people need rehab and help more than they need jail, but sometimes jail is the only way that you're going to get them clean long enough to actually take the clean time and the help seriously, because it's so hard to get out of that life. But at the same time, once you have a record, it's so hard to reacclimate yourself back into society, especially if you're in a small town. Like me, I'm in a small town, so whenever I got arrested, my arrest made front page news, guy gets arrested with 5 bricks. Now, to some of you might hear those numbers and be like, that's nothing, that's personal use. In small cities and stuff, yeah, that is nothing. In an area like where I live, I'm lucky I got arrested on my way back from the city. If I would have been I got arrested, I'm not going to tell you guys where I live, but I got arrested in the area, the county of a large city. Whereas if I was on my way back home, had I gotten arrested for the exact same amount a mile further down the road once I crossed borders of the county, I would have been looking at like major charges. Whereas if it was practically a slap in the wrist in the city, I probably would have been looking at 10 years in my county, which I think is bullcrap. The law should be the same, the punishment should be the same, no matter where you are. It shouldn't be, well, you live in a small town where this crime doesn't happen as much, so we're going to hit you with a 10 times worse sentence. So, you know, like my example, if I would have been arrested 1 mile further down the road, or didn't pull over as fast as I did, I would have gotten probably 9 years more than what I did in prison. How is that fair for the exact same thing? Anyway, I don't want to beat that to death, but the long story of it, or my opinion of it, is the way the system is right now. It's so hard to reacclimate yourself. Like I said, you know, most of the time, if you're involved in drugs, there's some form of DUI or DWI involved. So then you lose your license. You have a criminal background. Like I said, my name was blasted all over the paper. Small town, so a lot of people knew me. Now I'm trying to stay clean and trying to find a job, and everyone's like, oh, that's that big drug dealer. He's bad news, you know, like, so no one wants to give me a chance. I don't have a license now because I had a DUI on top of it all. So I have to try to rely on other people. Now me, luckily and thankfully, I was blessed and had somebody in my corner that was willing to drive me anywhere I needed to go. Some people don't have that. You know, a lot of people, especially if there's drugs involved and they come from a straight-knit family, a lot of times their family disowns them. They don't have help. And then you have, not only do you have to hold down a job, and you have a ton of fines and everything that make it almost impossible to be able to afford anything else and get on your feet, because with a fresh criminal record, nobody wants to hire you that pays good. So you don't make much money, you have a ton in fines, you don't have a license, you have court hearings left and right, you have probation appointments that you're supposed to go to left and right, and, you know, rehab and this and that, and just so many things. Like, it's not realistic. I can't tell you how many jobs I lost. I ended up getting a job that I had wanted for years. Finally got in, and I had somebody pull some strings for me, get me in, and I told them up front that, you know, what I was going to be doing as far as all the court hearings and stuff. And they're like, oh yeah, that'll be fine. You telling us about it up front, we'll be understanding. Once they really got to see firsthand what it was like, though, they cut me loose. And that was the only time I missed work. Sorry. And no, this is not an advertisement for that drink. But anyway, so, you know, it was just crazy. I had to do a lot, you know. At first, I was trying to go to meetings and do what everybody else told me I needed to do to stay clean. And, you know, because everyone's like, oh, this is the path to sobriety. You got to go to meetings, and you got to believe in God, and you got to do the 12 steps and NA and AA and blah, blah. Look, those programs are great, and they work for some people. But for some people, those aren't the answer. I went to a meeting, and I went to a few meetings, and some of them I really liked. Even to this day, I still will go to some or do some online meetings to just talk every now and then. It's nice. But after about a month sober, I went to a meeting. And this was before I went to jail, and I was trying to get sober myself. And I went to that meeting, and about 3/4 of the way through the meeting, the guy that was chairing the meetings told me that if I didn't believe in God, that I needed to basically go home and get high because I was never going to succeed. I thought that was bullcrap. And I did. I left. I went and I got high and screwed everything up and then ended up in jail. And, who knows? If he wouldn't have told me that, maybe I would have succeeded that time. And wouldn't have went to jail and wouldn't have had everything go horribly wrong for me. I don't know. I don't know what would have happened, but I know that it was messed up and I never really wanted to go to meetings again, and I had to take my own path for sobriety. And the hardest part for me, and I think the hardest part for most people, is one, not having any support, friends, family, people to back you. And two, the friends or family that you do have are involved in that stuff, and you need to cut those people out of your life. And sometimes those are the only people in your life. Sometimes it's hard when your best friends are the only ones that you have, and those people are heavy into that kind of stuff. You end up right back in that lifestyle. That can be really tough. For me, I made the decision that I wasn't going to screw up and put my daughter through that again, and my family. So I had to get rid of my best friends, and people are like, oh, they aren't your friends. Yeah, they are. So some of the people I had to cut out of my life, I had been friends with since I was 4 years old. They were around long, long before drugs ever came into the picture. They were my friends. Not granted, maybe not a best of friends or the best of influences, but they were my friends. I had to cut my wife out of my life. I had to cut a lot of people out of my life that I didn't want to. And it was very difficult at first, and I felt very alone and very depressed, especially at the hardest time of my life when I needed that type of support in my life. It was hard. But I did it, and I'm thankful now. Looking back, I still see, my best friend at the time. I look at him now, and he's still living with his mom, bouncing in and out of jail, totaling vehicles every other day, no money, no nothing, just crappy quality of life, and multiple kids to multiple different women, and he's in his mid-30s. And he doesn't show any sign of wanting to get into a different lifestyle and do better. And some people just get so comfortable in that lifestyle that it's how they live, But I wanted more. Sorry, I'm extremely thirsty today. My throat's bothering me, so I apologize that I keep drinking. And I probably shouldn't be shooting this video here. I'm just pulled into the parking lot at the store, and as you saw a moment ago, somebody was putting their cart here. So I said I'm going to do unedited videos, and I am. Well, that's why I probably shouldn't be shooting it here, because I shouldn't be throwing people that aren't giving me permission to put their video online. Anyway, like I said, I chose my own path, and it was very difficult, but I did it, and I succeeded, and I didn't think I would, but, here I am. I'm coming up on 10 years sober now. And I'm going to go into more depth about that in another video. I'm going to end this one here pretty directly just so I don't have any other, unwanted footage of people that don't give me permission to post them on a video. But I think that the system is really messed up, and it makes it really hard for people. And I'm not saying that that's an excuse, but I'm saying that it needs reform in some way. I don't know exactly how, but I have some ideas, or that could help. Maybe, I don't know. There's a judge that was newly appointed in this area and wants to have a chance to sit down and talk with me and get my side of things, because he knows that I turned my life around and I'm doing very well, and he wants to be tough on drugs and crime, but he also wants to be fair and do what will help people and not just throw everyone in jail. So, something I've been putting a lot of thought into, and I would like to sit down and have a talk with this judge, and maybe we will come up with some kind of program that'll help. But so my next couple videos I'm gonna shoot another one here today. I'm gonna go into more depth. I'm gonna go into a breakdown of some ideas for the law changes. I'm gonna go into a breakdown of recovery paths and, what worked for me and what works for some people, things to avoid. And the next video that I'm going to make, I think would be great for anybody, family, friends, addicts, suffering themselves, anybody that knows somebody or is somebody that can relate to that topic or just want to know more on it, information that can be helpful. I don't know for any of you that know, there's a thing out there called a CRS. It's a Certified Recovery Specialist. One of the requirements for that position is to be a recovering addict yourself and to have so much clean time, and then you have to take classes and take tests, get certified. I worked as a Certified Recovery Specialist for a while. So I do have a lot of knowledge in that department. But it just wasn't for me as far as the desk job thing. I can't do it. But I do still want to try to help people, hence why I'm making these videos. So I will be back with another video, and I will see you guys in the next one.